Hey guys, Pastor Ben here with another review and reflection. I warned you that we were going to be getting more books about being outside as I'm stuck inside during the winter, and today is another example of that. I want to talk about this book that I just picked up from the library and read the other day, Composting Basics, All the Skills and Tools You Need to Get Started. This is the second edition of this book. It's put out by Eric Ebeling, Carl Hursh, and Patty Olenick. I think one is an editor of this basic how-to series. That's Eric Ebeling. Carl Hursh, I think, is the one who actually is writing most of the text about composting. That's kind of his specialty. And then Patty Olenick is a soil scientist and sustainability coordinator who helps to teach and train people in these things. So they kind of pooled their resources to put together this little book on just the basics of composting. So for those who have been doing gardening for any period of time, composting is something that you always find yourself reading about and intrigued by, wondering, should I be doing this or not? I've been gardening on and off for a number of years. As I said in another video, my wife and I are kind of have enjoyed having that as a shared hobby and are getting more and more into it. But I've never been in a position to do any sort of composting. And part of that has just been because I didn't grow up gardening, didn't grow up doing composting. And so I had a general idea that, like, oh yeah, you can kind of put your food scraps out and have it turn into good soil and things. But I didn't really know how that happened. I didn't know how to do it. I knew that you could do it wrong, and being kind of a perfectionist, if I don't know exactly how to do it right, I don't want to do it at all, kind of thing. And so I was always kind of just paralyzed. Like, I knew enough to be intrigued and enough to be a little nervous about it, but not enough to have the confidence to do it. So as we've been getting more into gardening, I've been reading more about composting here and there. Still had some questions and uncertainties and just wanted some things clarified. So I thought maybe getting a kind of book like this that gives a one-stop shop for the basics of what you need to know might be helpful. And so that's what I was after as I read this book. I think that's probably the audience that this book is written for. And I found it to be very helpful. I think it did what I was hoping it would do. It doesn't get into a lot of the intricacies of soil science or exactly how composting works. It talks a little bit about the different types of bacteria and which ones come at different as you hit different temperature marks in the composting process, and some of that. But it really is more of a kind of how-to book. It covers a lot of ground. Why you should do composting, what the advantages are, figuring out how much you actually can produce and need to produce. It talks about ways you can use compost, give some practical advice for that. And then one of the things I like about this book is it doesn't just talk about, different options. Oh, you could take pallets and make, a 3-bin composting station, or you could get, make your own plastic compost bin, or you could do this. It talks about those options, but then it will also kind of walk you through, okay, if you've got pallets and you want to build a compost bin, here's how you do that, So let me just flip to that section. So yeah, he has a number of pages where he's showing you, okay, if you want to build a setup like this, how do you do that? And he'll just go page by page, all the tools you need, all the instructions. And I feel like if I had only this book to go on, I could probably build these things. And I'm not, someone who's making stuff all the time. So I think it's a good resource in kind of giving you enough of the philosophy and the approach of composting, but not so loading you down with that you kind of lose sight of what you're doing. Some books I've read talk a lot about composting, and I walk away going like, oh yeah, I want to be doing this, but I don't feel like I know how to do it. I think this book does a good job of telling you both what you want to do and how to do it, how to actually make it happen. So yeah, I thought it was a really helpful book. I think if you're like me and have some interest in it, but just feel like you need more information, this is a good informational book. And it definitely gave me some ideas of things that we might try to do in terms of getting compost going here on our property. So if you're like me and you like dirt and you like growing things, this is a book worth checking out. Composting Basics, All the Skills and Tools You Need to Get Started.